Time seems to be racing by. It's hard to believe that Miriam, our little newborn baby, is already over a month old. She's doing very well, growing rapidly. She's like all my other newborns. She likes to be held all the time. So I, of course, use the wrap to make that happen. And then at the same time, to also make time go a little faster, of course, we are working on our home build, and it has gone a lot more slowly than I expected. However, it is really coming together. At the end of this video, I want to show you the columns finally up on the porch, and we're also working on siding. So it's a lot of gratifying work because it is the kind of thing that you actually see when you pull up. There's been a lot of behind the scenes type of things that we've been doing. Like we put up the door on the garage. We ordered the garage door and put up the beams that are going over the top of the garage windows and the loft in the barn. I showed you that last video. But the house has still looked pretty much the same, even though there's been a lot of things going on, like plumbing and HVAC and running water lines throughout the whole entire property. We finally got to try our water. It's delicious, by the way, which is always exciting because with a well, you never know what you're going to get as far as taste goes, especially out here. Sometimes people have sulfur. Sometimes people have very hard water that isn't all that tasty. Anyways, to have some visible differences on the front of the house has been so exciting. I could not wait to get these columns from Chadsworth Columns up on the house and see how they looked. And of course, they are as stunning as I expected. Now, one thing I've noticed throughout this home build process is I know very little about building a home, or at least I did. I feel like I could do it so much better a second time around. So I didn't know when to order certain things. And the columns would be one example of that. They've been sitting in a box, just piled up on the ground outside for so many months now. And I don't even remember when we got those. So excited to see some things picked up off the ground and onto the house, especially something as beautiful as these columns. The siding has all been primed with linseed oil primer. So now that it's up, there's a race against the clock to get a few top coats on before winter. Now, it would be okay to leave it just primed because that's enough to protect the cedar siding. But I want to see it beautiful all winter long. And you can't really paint linseed oil paint when it's below freezing. So I really hope to get a few coats of top coat on just so it's beautiful all winter. We don't have to wait until May to make it beautiful. Thankfully, we have been having a super warm fall. If I wasn't building a house right now, I think I'd be pretty upset about the fact that it's still ridiculously hot. We had a cool week and then it's just been hot. Like it still feels like summer right now here. Although I do think it's going to shift. We are also having a pretty significant drought. A lot of the farmers in our area are struggling. I come from a family of farmers, and my dad said the yield this year is just not great at all. And so I'm not wishing that on anybody. But to take the positive side of this, being in the middle of a build right now, to have it be hot and dry, especially when we are still waiting on our casement windows that should be here very soon. I cannot wait to get our house all sealed up. But to have no water in our house, even though we should have and could have had so many rains by now, is actually something I'm quite thankful for. And to have the temperatures just so far above freezing means that we have all this extra time to paint. I really feel like it's a race against the clock. Now I'm convinced we actually will be able to get a majority of the painting done in time. If the cold weather had come sooner, that wouldn't have happened. So I'm actually very grateful that it does not feel like fall right now, even though I am a bit tired of being hot all the time. In my kitchen this morning, I am making what's called Marry Me chicken. I've seen this all over the internet, really wanted to try it. But what's funny is after I started making this and following a recipe for Marry Me chicken, I realized that this is just the same creamy, tomatoey pasta that we make all the time. I've shared in our different meal planning videos over the years, or lack thereof, that one of my go-to fast meals when I have nothing planned is chicken breasts because they're really fast to thaw out. And then some kind of creamy, tomatoey pasta. Sometimes I'll use fresh diced tomatoes. Sometimes I use fire roasted canned. Sometimes, like in the case today, I'm using sun-dried tomatoes from Azure Standard. Usually I just throw it together, add some herbs, add some pasta. It's just a really great, easy go-to meal. We do a ton of cooking and baking, especially this time of year. From sourdough treats to stews and chilies. We have multiple stove burners going pretty much at all times. Many of my children like to cook also, so there are a lot of extra hands and helpers in the kitchen. It can also mean that we have an added fire risk with the amount of times that we're firing up our gas range. That's why I was so happy to find out about Prepared Hero, which is the sponsor of today's video. With the link in my description box below, you can get up to 56% off your Prepared Hero emergency fire blanket. With Prepared Hero, you can stop fire in 3 easy steps. First, order your blanket. Second, pull the tabs. So the easy pull system quickly releases the fire blanket from its case. And the third step is cover the fire. The emergency fire blanket suffocates the fire in a matter of seconds. So for fire emergencies from cooking to camping, car fires, electric fires, or a fire out by the grill, this emergency fire blanket is something to always keep on hand and teach your kids how to use. Since I have older kids and teenagers, we have many people in our home that can cook a meal from start to finish. And I love knowing that in the case of an emergency, like you take your tea towel, which I have totally done, and put it in the flame, there is something to quickly reach for that will safely suffocate the fire, especially as we're spending all of our time building a new house and filling it with 11 people. This gives me so much peace of mind knowing that we have a plan in the case of an emergency with a kitchen that is in such constant use. Prepared Hero Emergency Fire Blanket is also a great gift for your loved ones, thinking about them this upcoming Christmas season. It is something that every kitchen needs to have. The Prepared Hero Emergency Fire Blanket is resistant to high temperatures, has no expiration date, it's easy to carry and store, and it's designed in the USA. It's also a great alternative to fire extinguishers, which release harmful chemicals and can be a huge mess to clean up. Also, throwing water on a fire can create a lot of damage in your home, so this is a great alternative to that. Tap the link in the description box below to save up to 56% off the Prepared Hero Emergency Fire Blanket. This works for new and returning customers, so it's a great time to stock up now. If you have little kids that you are trying to keep busy, a pumpkin will do the trick for a really long time. Mine absolutely love carving pumpkins, scooping out the seeds. That's something that we do several times throughout the fall season, which is why we end up with so many volunteer pumpkin plants in our compost pile when we are composting. Of course, this year, living in town, we're just giving everything to the chickens that are in the backyard. I am looking forward so much to getting settled in on our farm. I'm just longing for it more and more and more. I'm grateful for the home that we have while we're building, and I'm grateful that we're comfortable, but I can tell you that I am definitely a farm country type of person. Over on the farmhouseonboone.com website, that's my blog, my recipe website where I share all of the recipes that we make here, whether it's snacks, breakfast, lunch, dinner. I have a recipe for sourdough pumpkin coffee cake. It's great this time of year. The recipe on the website does call for all-purpose flour, but I always substitute whole grain and it works beautifully. So I did 140 grams per cup of flour of soft white wheat, both for the crumb topping and for the main cake. I melted the butter that I needed for the crumb topping in a little saucepan and then measured the soft white wheat berries in a small bowl that I needed for the crumb topping and then just milled them directly into that butter since I knew it was the perfect amount. Use one less bowl. And then I do the same for the main cake. I weigh the wheat berries right in the bowl and then I can add the other ingredients even while it's milling. So a lot of times I will put it through the mill, put the bowl underneath, and then start adding in the baking soda, baking powder, whatever it is the recipe calls for, the dry ingredients, cinnamon, sugar, into that bowl while it's milling, and then I'm on to the next thing right after that. I like doing it that way because there's just no wasted time. There's no wasted flour. What you measure before putting it through the mill is what will be afterwards, as long as you measure by weight. I usually do 130 or 140 grams of soft white wheat per cup of flour. I find that either one works, so I'm kind of trying to decide which one's going to be like the one I always say, but they both work out really well. If something ends up turning out on the drier side, then just sticking with 130 grams works really well. I do find for cookies, I like to do 130 grams of soft white wheat per cup of flour. I weigh it before putting it through the mill so that when it goes through the mill, it's completely ready to go. I don't have to remeasure after that. With this coffee cake being entirely whole grain, plus having some pumpkin in it and pumpkin spice, it's perfect for a dessert this season with a cup of coffee, but also could totally work for breakfast time. Because it's hearty, it's healthy, it has quality ingredients, and if you pour a tall glass of raw milk, which is what we always do, there's enough protein to get your morning started. It can also make an excellent breakfast. This recipe is definitely an annual seasonal tradition for us at this point. You can also long ferment it. You don't have to make this a quick recipe. If you're looking for some of the health benefits of long fermentation, that's totally doable as well. Another thing we have to make at least 2 or 3 times during the autumn season is butternut squash. Today I'm going to be making a butternut squash pasta. I got to thinking as I was cooking in my kitchen that I should swap out some art. I have been not motivated whatsoever to decorate this home because my brain is so focused on our new home, but I learned that it's really too long of a temporary home to not decorate it because I love decorating so much. Still, I can't put a ton of effort into it, but it's not hard to take one piece of art that I have not displayed currently that has a really lovely fall theme on it with the apples and the warm cup of coffee and the corn and dried florals, to just swap that out and enjoy that in this space that I spend so much time. Even though it isn't my dream kitchen, I spend so much time here, and so it's worth some of my effort. I try to keep it decluttered, clean, stocked, and ultimately beautiful, or as beautiful as I can with a small amount of effort, not putting any money into it, but still just little small touches can make it an enjoyable space to be. It's hard to keep clean because we have a large family with a small kitchen, but I'm always thankful when I put the effort in multiple times a day to make it really clean. Dishes put away, surfaces all wiped, floors swept, counters decluttered. It makes it a space I actually feel like I can function, even though it is small. My daughter made me a decaf pumpkin spice latte, iced with raw milk. She's been doing this for me a lot this fall, and I'll never turn her down when she wants to make me one because it's delicious and healthy and a good little pick-me-up in the afternoon, even though it is decaf. Just a little bit of sweetener. She usually does maple syrup, a shot of espresso, raw milk, and then just some pumpkin spice, and kind of either shakes it up or does a little immersion type of thing. Usually she makes one for me and my other daughter as well. She's also gotten into the habit of making the younger kids what we call steamies. So she puts a little bit of milk into the little stainless steel frother container thing that we have for our espresso machine, adds a bit of honey, froths it all up and heats it up with that, and then adds some dye-free sprinkles on top because it's all frothy, so they sit on top. They have their little Christmas mugs that I never did put away last year that have their names on them, so they're made of tin, and they've been carrying those around all through the fall. Now, it's not cold yet, which I already mentioned, but I think we'll be making them even more when it is cold. The kids don't seem to care. They love this new steamy concept. So for this butternut squash pasta, I roasted the butternut squash in the oven all morning. We actually had to go out to the farm this morning and check in on the build progress and answer a few questions for our builder. When I came back, it was done, so I set it aside, let it cool a bit while I worked on the rest of the pasta meal. I love things where I can start them in the morning, whether it's thawing the meat, which I also did this morning, getting this in the oven. Now, some of our kids stayed home because we do have older kids, so that kind of makes a difference because you might not want to leave the oven on 400 degrees while you're gone, but I knew we were going to be gone for a short time, and then I have older teenagers. But being able to thaw the meat, get the squash started in the oven, because that's the part of this recipe that takes the longest time, meant that when I got home, all I had to do was saute the onions, scoop out the butternut squash, and add the Parmesan half and half, salt, cinnamon, and herbs. Oh, and the cream cheese, forgot that. I like to give it a little blend with the immersion blender. Cook some pasta and brown some loose sausage, or roll them into meatballs like I did today, but I still just cooked them right on the cast iron skillet. A lot of times I will brown them on both sides in the cast iron skillet and then throw them in the oven to finish while I'm finishing up the rest of the meal. Now that is a little handful of steps, but at least all of the time consuming parts were over, so I could still get lunch on the table in less than 30 minutes. This house build has been such a project. I've enjoyed studying the details of different styles of homes to try to make ours cohesive and tell a story. One thing I learned is that square pilasters visually supporting the beam at the house go really nicely with round columns at the front. Once I noticed this detail, I saw it in so many homes. Another old house detail that I even noticed in the rental home that we own is that the top of the columns are by design larger than the beam, and they actually stick out. It's all these little things that come together that make the project look authentically old. You all know I consulted with Brent Hall to design this, and I asked him, what style would you call this home? And he said, I'd call it a vernacular colonial revival, or a farmhouse colonial revival, or just American farmhouse or 1890s farmhouse. He said it's a recognizable style but not specific. The colonial revival influence is where we drew the round column shape from. I think it's all looking so pretty together and convincingly old. I am milling 280 grams of soft white wheat berries to make apple cider donuts. This is another new recipe over on farmhouseonboone.com. To the flour, I add some brown sugar, salt, baking powder, cinnamon. Meanwhile, I am cooking apple cider to reduce it down from 1.5 cups down to a half cup. This gives the donuts a really lovely apple flavor. I'll also add butter, vanilla, milk, and an egg. Bake those in donut pans and then give them a cinnamon sugar coating once they're all baked. Of course, we love donuts fried in tallow, but these are really easy because you don't have to worry about the frying. Just get them in the little donut pan. And kids, of course, love the donut shape. That's always really exciting.
I didn't think about wine.
I shared a little bit about the style of the home we are building earlier. I wanted to read the rest of the email from Brent when I was asking him about the style for those of you who nerd out on this stuff like me, and to give you more context to how the design of this home came together. He said, your house is a very recognizable style but not specific. The word vernacular means it's a common or familiar type of home without specific architectural details. For instance, there's no Palladian window or strong focused entry. The beauty in the home is in its simplicity. I use the word farmhouse to mean that this house form appeared over and over across America from the 1800s to the early 1900s. As the country expanded west, this simple house form was popular for its practicality and charm. If you strip away the porches, the simple massing and arrangement of the windows and doors is clearly colonial. So it has a lot of different influences, but mostly it's just supposed to represent a common farmhouse home, simple in style, across America around the turn of the century. I can't wait till I can make these details happen on the inside of our home as well. I hope you're enjoying the fall season where you are and whatever it is that you are doing when the days get a bit cooler, I think we'll enjoy baking and turning on the oven a bit more and having warm soups and stews. I can't wait to share more of that with you and more house progress throughout the rest of the fall season.